Okay, welcome guys. Here we are in Manchester on location for the All Ears podcast. And because we are in Manchester, I had to bring a man on who represents Manchester and has the Manchester top team as his home, Mr. Carl Prince. As always, I like to start the podcast with a nice question. So what's more difficult? Dealing with the personalities, the egos, the broken children, if you would, of mixed martial arts and rearing them and raising them up, the young kids that you have to deal with every single day, or having 3 daughters? I'm talking out my own experience as well. I got 2 daughters. So do you feel like the personal wins or the professional wins outweigh the family time, or how do you balance that?
I guess balancing it is the hardest thing to do, isn't it? And I try not to outweigh and score, because I believe once you've done that, then you're always trying to chase the thing that you put at the top of the table. So I just have a very balanced life, and everything that I do within it is kind of my own choice. I'm very fortunate, maybe not fortunate, but I've worked hard to get to this point where anything that I do, I choose to do. And obviously I'm going to choose to spend as much time with my kids as possible, and just to see them grow and just see that they're in own individual spirit and things like that. That's amazing. But obviously, Luke, as who I am, like to get not just one UFC champion, that isn't the goal. Do you know what I mean? To get like 10 multiple UFC champions, and not just to win the title, but to retain it and to become legends within the sport and things like that. That's the overarching vision. I've heard other people in the area talk about they want to become the best gym in Manchester, and good luck to them. If that's their goal, they'll probably reach that goal. I believe a lot in manifesting your goals, and if you want to reach something, you aspire to something, you speak it out loud, and if people laugh at it, then that makes me push myself towards it more. So now I believe that within Manchester, within the program that we're going to get multiple and like big legacy and real like franchise fighters. You know, I think that a lot of our fighters, because we understand the full package of what we're selling, what we're talking about. Like for instance, we've got a guy, there's an event in Manchester this weekend called Octagon. There's a person on it, he's just entered the fray, but everyone's aware of who he is already because he's come as the full package. There's a lot of good fighters out there, Luke, a lot, but what I'm trying to teach my guys is like the holistic approach in terms of approaching yourself, not just as a fighter, but as a business, as an entertainer and everything like that. So, to answer the question in an indirect way, I enjoy every little part of my life, and if I didn't enjoy it, I'd work really hard to get rid of that part of it, because you only get one go at it, and what I've learned at this is like I'm going to try and have the best go I can possibly have.
I think you speak a lot, we know each other extremely well, so you speak a lot about the desires and the wants of other people and how you can facilitate those, but now in the gym and everywhere, I've seen the journey you've been over the last 5-6 years and everything that's happening, and now you're kind of getting to somewhere, to a start of it still, I think. But what is the desires and the goals that you have set for Manchester top team and for yourself, you know?
Wow. But to give you a big overarching vision is this: I came from a different background, I came from a different sport. So I always, when I came into MMA, I saw the benefits of the individual sport, but I also saw the deficits of it being approached as an individual sport, and I'm trying to collate it into a team sport. So straight away, the overarching vision is to create an academy. That was the first start of it. I spent a lot of times at football academies. Within that, they have like a nutritionist, a physio, all these things that are like new to MMA. Like, and a nutritionist is kind of new. Obviously, maybe 10 years into it, 10 years ago, a nutritionist came in, and we're still a bit spit and sawdust. So I'm just trying to reinvent and also like to create a model for everybody else to follow. So within Manchester Top Team itself, the vision is this: to have like a from 4 to 50, have a system where you can come in and not actually have to go anywhere else. So we've got our own in-house school, which will become like a public private school pretty soon. So kids who are not engaged with school already come to us, but now kids who are not engaged with school but want to be a fighter, that's the goal, where we can have like under 8s who train in the morning, do the schooling in the gym in the evening and things like that, and by virtue of that become like hopefully the first professional sports team of its ilk in this country, and then use the method which I've already have written down and push it to other people, not sell it on to them, to raise the level, because if they raise their standards, we raise our standards, everybody's standards gets raised, we get raised, and just be a bit of a flag bearer really for like how our sport, as you well know, has been like an expensive hobby for us both, and now we can take it into like the professional realm, and like you said, the people that I care about, which have many within the gym, how they can have a better experience than I did and make money out of it. And because we always say the better you get at fighting, the worse your car becomes. So we're just trying to erase that and make sure that like everyone can live a good living. Like a lot of my guys now coming as new pros and making more money than you did in your 6th, 7th, 8th professional fights. So just make sure that it has to be a business and approaching like a business from the day they walk in. And everybody wants to get to a certain point where we're amateur in terms of everything and then have a professional and change your approach, where I'm trying to get the kids from being 8 in the school to have a professional approach and understand like the little details of everything. And what I've invested in myself today, it might not come through for 5-10 years, but in the 10 years time, if I'm just consistent and I chip away at things, that I can really achieve all the things I want. We're just in a bit of a different time in this world where everyone wants something quickly. And what I'm trying to teach people is you can get what you want, and it's on your own time, and but behind consistency and everything like that. And everyone wants to be comfortable, don't they, Luke? Everyone wants to be comfortable. They want things to be easy. Yeah, and I'm trying to show things that you can make yourself uncomfortable to be comfortable. In fact, comfort's wherever you want it. I'm sat on a couch. It's pretty comfortable. I got out of bed this morning. It was pretty comfortable. I chose to get out of it. There were my decisions. And sometimes what I'm trying to teach my guys, and this is the essence of the message, and this is the essence of the vision. And whatever falls behind the vision will be fantastic in terms of the school, in terms of what we're growing at, in terms of 20 fighters, UFC champions, PFL. This is what's going to happen. I believe that with the consistency that I'm going to operate with, and everyone's going to fall in, this is what's going to happen. But eventually, if you're consistent, you stick to what you want to do, you believe in the message, you believe in yourself, like anything is possible. Anything is possible. Everyone wants like a quick pill to take something and do this. It's like, it doesn't really exist. What does exist is consistency. But behind that, what I'm teaching my guys, and what I'm trying to teach my daughters as well, is you have to kind of eradicate feelings. Like for me, feelings, emotions and things like that, they're very natural. But if you want to be a professional athlete and you want to aspire to be like an extreme winner, you have to eradicate these things, because there's always feelings that I feel. So I'm trying to not only teach people how to look at the fighting technically, look at the fighting tactically, but how to approach fighting and in terms of life, better in from an emotional standpoint, so you can make better decisions, not based upon emotion, based upon just think your brain going into auto gear and think and just make those decisions correctly. So to answer your question in a roundabout type of way, which I never get to the answer, is I just wanted, this is going to be the biggest thing that's ever happened in mixed martial arts in this country. And after that, this will be the biggest thing that happened in mixed martial arts in Europe. And after that will be the standard bearer and the flag bearer for everybody else. And the opportunities and the vision that we have for it is endless. It's not a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's just an ongoing race with myself. And then everyone else everyone else behind that is flying the flag for Manchester. So we'll get there.
I mean, I think maybe some advice might not be the right word, but something that I utilize that maybe you can teach with the guys when you talk about emotions not interfering with decisions. How I kind of have looked at it for a very, very long time, but I now kind of can put it into words. When I was fighting and I was competing, you said about it being like it was in bed this morning was comfortable, and I feel like your body is the what precipitates comfort, is what understands comfort is your body. And then controlling the emotions is like your mind. So your mind and your body are connected. So if you're comfortable in your mind, you're comfortable in your body. If you're comfortable in your body, you're comfortable in your mind. So when you're waking up and it's 6 a.m. and you got to go out running because you got to cut weight and it's cold outside and it's raining because we're in Manchester, you don't want to do that because it's not comfortable to get up and to do those things. So the overarching thing that controls those decisions is not your body and is not your mind, but is like your will. So it's like the person behind you. I always describe the way we sense the universe and the way we walk through the world is in 3 different ways. We have 3 different things that connect us, which is we have the body, we have the mind, and then we have the will. So the third thing is the will, and that's the guy that makes decisions. For me, I've always been fascinated with the fact that I can ask myself questions and I can give myself answers, which I think is retarded, because who am I talking to?
Yeah.
When I say, blah, 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 I'll ask myself a question. Who am I talking to? What? So I know you have probably a good understanding of this and a good opinion of it, but consciousness as a person, that's the word I was looking for. I feel like you have 3 states of consciousness. You have body, you have mind, and you have will. And will is the one you need to train to become an extreme winner. So when you speak, when you're coaching the guys, you're trying to instill their will to overcome the other two emotions or the other two consciousnesses. And that is how I have consistently been able to, win in life, if you want to call it that. So,
but your will is your decisions, isn't it? And I believe, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. And I never thought about it. Like, so you think about the three states of consciousness: conscious, subconscious, unconscious. Mm-hmm. So like, behind what you said about will, I just think about decisions. It's like, I'm going to feel in certain ways. Like, I agree, whether you call it will or decision making, it's like your brain actually dictates how if my brain's not better, my body reacts like that. If I'm not comfortable with my body react like that. So I'm trying to make everybody comfortable with uncomfortable things all the time. Like, think about any situation you walked into, maybe it's a meeting, maybe it's an interview, to walk in and to own the room. I've been there when I've seen these guys that are hamstrung by themselves in front of the camera. Whereas you're just yourself, isn't it? This is just an informal chat between two friends. The fact that there's cameras there is irrelevant. I'm trying to I can feel uncomfortable with it, or I can think positively with that. I'm just being me, and I'm just going to transfer what I feel organically over to somebody else, and it's going to come across well, because I'm not overly concerned about how it looks, and that because I'm not really feeling it. I'm just thinking it. And if I can make these quick decision makings in my life and get, I love the word comfort, and get comfortable with it, and when I get comfortable with the decisions I make in my life, I'm going to make better decisions in action, and in action where I don't have time to think, where I'm just working on instincts. If my instincts are good, then it doesn't matter how I'm feeling in that moment, because you're going to feel different ways. I can't control the way that I feel. And in my life, you know me quite well, Luke, I like to split it up into two things: controllables and uncontrollables. I can control the way I think, but I can't control the way that I feel. But if by controlling the way I think, it controls the way that I feel, I can just eradicate that. Then, in chaos, I'm just in more control of the chaos. And if I'm more controlling the chaos, I'm more relaxed. I see more. And if I'm seeing more, I'm thinking less, I'm feeling less, and I can really adapt and overcome. And that to me is flow state, isn't it? If I'm in the middle of whilst I'm thinking, but unconsciously thinking, like you said. And I think if you can promote that within your life, outside the gym, through stresses, cortisol levels outside, like you wake up in the morning, you get some messages or whatever, and I'm not feeling it today. I don't feel it today. I don't really say those words anymore, and I won't let anybody say those words. I'm not feeling great today. I'm not feeling great, but I'm present. I'm here, and I can overcome it.
So you said this. Because you said three states of consciousness: conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. Is that how you said it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay. So what will explain what the subconscious is?
So the subconscious is like the things that you don't like. Say, for instance, I'm subconsciously sat like this because my father sat like this.
Okay.
So I've watched subconsciously how I think that someone I respect should sit. In fact, if I was to sit like this, I suggest that you would end up sitting like that with me as well, because subconsciously we're kind of tribal people, want to be accepted.
I don't want to be accepted, but
I'm ginger, mate. I really want to be accepted. It's a different world now, but 40 years ago it was much different. So it's like that's what subconsciously I could be doing, or like subconsciously I could be cleaning without really knowing that I'm cleaning, just because my OCD mind wants it to be clean or whatever. And then unconsciously are the things that you don't know that you're doing at all times. Like, so obviously unconscious everyone means that when you're asleep, but when you're asleep you're still having these thoughts. These like unconscious thoughts, aren't they? And then obviously everyone knows we don't really know what consciousness is, and this is part of the problem with this world. This is what I would try. I'd educate my fighters on what consciousness is, because we know about the mind, we know about the body, but we don't know about the spirit, and I think there's a reason for that.
I mean, we could go into that, but that's a bit deep. We're not smoking enough weed to talk about that. But I think for consciousness, again, we're talking about MMA, something I've done forever, so I have a pretty good grasp of it. Maybe for the viewers, they don't understand it so much. But when we talk about the subconscious, the conscious, and the unconscious mind, my understanding is when you learn a new technique, you want to take that technique, you want it to be the best it possibly can be, and at the beginning you're unconscious because you don't understand what it is, so you don't have a clue what it is. Then you consciously think about that thing and you execute that thing.
Nice.
So let's just talk about your right hand being up. You're consciously keeping your right hand up because you keep getting hit with a left hook. So you're keeping your right hand up, you're keeping your right hand up, you're keeping your right hand up. That's conscious. You want to take that from a conscious place to an unconscious place.
Nice. Right? That is a great thought. I don't really teach like that. I watch other people teach like that, and I don't teach like that because of that reason. Because if you have to think about it, it's natural.
Yeah.
So I teach holistic. Like, okay, behind holistic, techniques are constant. So I have to keep my hands up in different ranges. But if I have to remind somebody of that over and over again on that day, they aren't going to get it. In fact, it's a double negative. My old coach used to talk about the pink elephant thing. I'm sure I spoke to you about this before. It's like, if I say something to you 3 times over and over again, and you still don't understand it, you're not going to get it there and then. In fact, your body learns in your rest if you understand that. So what you do is you say it a couple of times and not get it, and then the next time you remind them of what we spoke about last time. Hey, remember what we needed to work on last week with the hands being up? And hopefully in the week, because they've heard you say it 5 times in the session, in the week after they digested it, and it should be within that. So I'll teach the whole. The thing about what for me coaching is half whole. All right, so I teach the whole a lot, and then I take it apart, and then we put it back together. And if in the unconscious work, by moving around and putting it all back together, if then the little details of dropping hands and that, then I'll be like, all right, you're dropping hands. This is what you're gonna do. You drop your hands. So because I don't like once you take it apart, because a lot of people are good at hitting pads. Let's think about our sport. A lot of people look good at hitting pads. A lot of people look good at Instagram, but doing it under pressure is a different thing. So if I can't perform something under no pressure, there's no way I can perform it under pressure. So for me, I don't really coach from that standpoint. I try to put it all together, take it apart, look at it again, take it apart. I always say to my guys, you're an engine, and every day we take it apart and put it back together. In fact, in the army, they take the gun apart and they put it back together every day. But not that they're just trying to always make sure that it's clean, they're improving on something. In fact, when you buy a gun, it's supposed to be perfection. If you and I was to walk into a gun store, we buy a gun, we wouldn't question it, we wouldn't be like, clean it, there's a bit of dirt in there. But we understand that this is our body of work, so we have to take it apart, put it back together, inspect, improve upon it, make it better, and things like that. And I think for me, that's when you put the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious all together, and so then it's mindless motion. Because really, all we're working on is motion. Irrespective of the sport, we're working on flow through your body, understanding your body mechanics and motion. And like the best fighters are the ones who have the littlest motion and can go from 0 to 100. And like everything that we're working on is a distraction to that. So we're trying to make these guys so polished within the body that they don't even know when they're going to throw a punch. It just occurs.
Yeah, but then that's the most natural it could possibly be.
Yeah.
But I feel like I think you're talking at a very advanced level. I mean, talking about the holistic approach, it's great when you know all the moves.
Yeah.
But if you don't even know any of the moves, you got to learn the moves at the first stage, right? So I think, well, I look at again fighting, but anything is like you're creating a sculpture.
Yeah.
And the sculpture is a big block, and you have to chip away of it, and then it will become a work of art. And if let's talk about just throwing a jab, you have to do that 10,000 times, but that's you cleaning it. So you do it, like you just said, holistically, look at it, repeat it. Okay, this is, you're not turning over you're not turning over completely or whatever. You're not extending, you're not moving your right shoulder, whatever it is. And that's you chipping, cleaning. And I think what I have learned, and I talk about this quite a lot, but from doing that process that you just described, even if it's holistically, half and whole, whatever you want to call it, doing that process in the sport is very easy for people. And I think you'll because of good coaching, but you'll see like most athletes, guys that you've got in the gym, they can do that over and over again. But then in life, when they have a problem, they can't dissect it and put it back together.
Okay.
And I think that's like a missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of guys, because they think that fighting is just about fighting.
Yeah.
And the decisions that they're making are just about the decisions they're making in that moment to become a better fighter. But then they'll go home and they'll have an argument with their girlfriend, and they won't look back at why they had that argument, what they said, what they could have done better. So I think
transferable skills.
To make it a transferable skill, I think there's something missing.
So okay, I agree. And I think behind that, in transferable skills, there has to be a concept, isn't it? So everything has to fall within this. Like everything in life has like a parameter of work, doesn't it? These are the parameters that they've got to work within. If it falls outside of that, then it doesn't work for us. So to answer your question, it's about reps, isn't it? So whether I need to have repetition with problem solving outside the gym, or problem solving within, it's all transferable, isn't it, if it's done under pressure? Like if people are good at mathematics, but then like you stood over them shouting things at them, you ask them the same equation, then it might take them a little bit longer to do that, unless they've had more reps at it, isn't it? It's like being comfortable again with things that are uncomfortable. It brings back to the same notion, doesn't it? So to polish things off, it's just based concepts, isn't it? And the concept of fighting is always, whether it be grappling, stand-up, whatever, is always base, balance and posture, isn't it? And everything that you can work come off that. Because I look at the human body like a calorie. because it looks like a calorie, and especially looks like a motion like a calorie. So the reason we have to perform repetition is to teach you to do the right thing over and over without thought. Because say, for instance, just me moving my hand like that costs me 10 calories. Yeah, my body's a calculator, so it'll try to make it cost 6 because it wants to save the other 4 for later, because he doesn't know what I'm going to do. He knows it's pretty cold outside. It's Manchester, isn't it? So he wants to save some of this energy to keep me warm later. So I've got to retrain and reframe my body to work behind the base, balance and posture concepts, and not to be too economical with my motion, because my body wants to be smarter. My mind wants to be smart. My body, it'd be like, well, 1 second, you could do this, but you could do it a little bit less, and it'll help us out to save us for something later. So,
but then what part of the conscious mind is the thing that tells it not to save the 4 calories?
I think the repetition is a part of the conscious mind.
But I think to get there, you need to push through the will. So you need to be told, like, order. So like, there was this thing recently that I was a book that I read. I'm going to mess this up completely, but it was on another podcast they brought it up, and then I skimmed through it, and it was like, the king, I'm going to completely mess it. It's king, magician. There's four phases of it, and for me, it looked like the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. So that were like the 4 states of humanity, or whatever you want to call it, like the human. But I looked at it, took out the lover because lover's gay. But you got the 3 states in my head. This was for how I looked at consciousness. Mm-hmm. So you have the king that makes the orders. You have the warrior that carries them out, and then you have the magician, which is like the charisma and everything else. So it'd be like the king's the will that tells the guy, okay, I know your body wants to save those 4 calories, but I am telling you that you need to follow the orders. And by repeatedly following orders, that connection between you and the king is going to be better. Yeah. Then the warrior is the guy, the body that does it, and then the charisma is the mind, right?
So you have 3 voices in your head, Luke.
3 voices in my head all the time, basically.
Yeah. Do you know some people don't have any voice in their head? That's what I wanted to speak to before. So like you said, you have a conversation with the guy in your head. The thing that startles me the most is I think something crazy like 1/3 of people that have an internal dialogue. They don't have a guy that they speak to. Well, like you got 3. I reckon I've got about 12.
They're 12 different characters, but I think, they don't have an internal voice at all.
No.
Okay, well, maybe that's to do with evolution or some other subject we talk about. But for me, that's the thing I've always thought about, like questioning yourself. And I don't understand people that don't do that.
No.
Maybe that makes me a little bit more insane. I never thought about it like that before. But
well, let's admit that we both have like a Ferrari engine for a brain, and like bicycle, or like foot for brakes, just our own feet, like Flintstones feet, just to slow it down. So I'm sure that we get stuck in some thoughts here and there.
Well, okay, maybe, but I was going to give again, talking about in the gym and training and coaching, and this you said, use the word, I'm trying to remember now, talking about consciousness, and you said about people being conscious in sessions, and you were saying that this is something that I found, maybe again, this is my Ferrari brain that you described it as or whatever, but my like understanding of the room when I'm on the tatami and I look around the mat. This is how I've always felt, and this is going to make me sound like an absolute arrogant prick, but that's fine.
If the cap fits.
If the cap fits, exactly. But when I'm on the mat, I feel like I'm the most engaged person there, and when I'm in a room, I can almost sense the people that are like glowing and the people that aren't. I've had this ability, if you want to call it, ever since school. Like you have the low energy, low vibration drones sitting there doing the thing that they think they're supposed to be doing because they're told they're supposed to be doing it, but never questioning why they're doing it. And then you have the guys that are looking and assessing and being like, okay, I've been told to do this, but why am I getting told to do it? I'm told to do this because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, but if I do this, this happens, blah, blah, blah. That's how my brain will operate. And I feel like most guys, because talking about MMA again, if you're going to be MMA and you're going to get any good, it takes a long amount of time. It's not like 6 months and you're brilliant. It takes years to get good at something, like everything. Repetition. But when you are training twice a day, every day, 6 days a week for 10 years, you then get stuck in this like monotony of doing the same thing over and over again. And I think this is probably for me personally, I think is the most important bit of advice for young fighters or young people doing the same thing over and over again, and this is why they don't make it or they don't get where they want to go, all that sort of stuff, because they get stuck in this monotony and they show up and they're there and they do the work like everyone else, but they have no conscious effort in the training session. They're not switched on. They have no direction, no understanding. I call it well, I can't remember what I call it because I've been hitting the head too much, but like having that Intention. That's the word I'm looking for.
There's no intention, is it?
Intention. So if you're just showing up, you go to the session, the coach is there, you've got a good coach. So that coach is telling you, okay, today we're working on 3-punch combinations. We're going to step right. Okay, great. 3-punch combinations, step right. And you do exactly as you're told and you don't question it because you have no intention in the session. You take away 10% of that session. But if you go into a session with full intention and understanding, and you used the word being present in that moment, you take everything and more away, because then you say to coach afterwards, this was good, but I thought about this, and this. And the way I managed to do that for so many years, because it does get a bit monotonous, is going to every single session I had with a goal in mind of what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to do. So when I showed up to the session, I used to do this thing, like training journaling, where before the session I would write down how I feel, what I want to achieve from the session, and any past experiences, but that would be the main thing, how I feel and what I want to achieve. So, okay, my team, or our team pretty well, but I would train with the guys called Jack and John, like Jack Mason and John Maguire, and Jack Mason had a great guillotine and John Maguire had a great Kimura. So every session if I was a jiu-jitsu session, I would go to these sessions and how do I feel, whatever, and then intention not to get guillotined by Jack Mason. That would be an intention for a lot of sessions, or not to get hit with an overhand right, whatever. Then I would go to that session, and after the session, I would review, and I would be like, okay, how do you feel? Is it the same or less? Because sometimes you feel like shit, then you feel brilliant after a session. Sometimes you feel low after a session. Sometimes you feel good, but you feel low after whatever. And then you could assess it. And then afterwards, I would write down if I achieved what I wanted to achieve from the session and what I learned from the session. And I did that forever. I stopped doing it, to be honest, like 3-4 years left of my career, and I think that's why I started going downhill. But that mentality, I don't know if you teach your guys that. I know you do reviews at the end of sessions and stuff like that, but I think that's the biggest mistake I see in gyms consistently, is they just show up, oh, coach is going to teach us half guard passes today. Okay, half guard pass, leave, forget about it. So
thank you, mate. Honestly, first of all, what I love most about reading podcasts and reading books is something like this, is just for a long time in my life, I thought I was the only one. Honestly, I thought I was the only one that thought like this. In fact, a lot of people will tell me you're too intense, you're like obsessed, this is uncomfortable. The word they used throughout that whole thing is the biggest, most important word in my life. And I think it started being about a decade ago. Someone said it to me. I was doing a weightlifting session, which was questionable. But as I was lifting, it was like, if you want to lift the bar, it's all about your intention. And I walked away from it. I was thinking, one second, everything's all about your intention. Like whatever I intend to do, I will do if I keep doing it, like you said, by consistency and things like that. If I intend to be consistent, I'll probably get where I want to get to. So it's like, thank you, mate, because for a long time in my life, in fact, probably the reason I am a coach is because of that. Because I thought I was on my own in terms of how intense I was, the obsession I've got to be like the lads at the gym call it like the unquenchable thirst. You've got the unquenchable thirst, and along the way, it's like how do you harness it? And especially when other people are saying that you're wrong and they're right, and that you shouldn't think like this. And people that you've trusted, maybe your parents, your family, no one understands everything like that. Like, what is your intention? What is your intention? Like, my intention doesn't stop. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I think about, my intention is to think about how I can improve people, how I can improve myself to be the best that there is going. Do you know what I mean? So I forget the question now. I've been going on about.
It wasn't really a question. It was more just a statement about me talking about, because you were saying that within your goal, or one of your goals, is that people can have transferable skills.
Yeah.
They can become the best that they can become, and all that sort of stuff. And I was just saying, one of the, not a bit of advice, but how I see it is that I think that was like, now retrospectively looking back at my career, that was the only thing. Because let's be honest about me, I started fighting when I was 18, 19 years old. I was not an athlete. I was never athletic before that. I still don't consider myself a high level athlete compared to some of the athletes that you deal with on a daily basis. But I had this mentality.
You found a way to make it work for your mentality. And I disagree with you in some points, but I appreciate and I respect the way you frame yourself. So it's just like reflective practice is really what we were speaking about, isn't it? So so many times I got so much good information within MMA, within other sports, and you left there not thinking about it because you had a good session, you got tired at the end, and all you're thinking about was the endorphins and everything that went through your body. I won't allow my guys to go like that, and I can only go back from football. Football was my sport growing up, and cricket to a certain extent, so it's like I can only go away from the games where I really sat and like thought about what happened. And the only times you really thought about what you did right, what you did wrong, what you could have done better was when things went against you. So now I won't ever allow that to happen, because why would I get to a point where, like, even see it in fighters now, they change the team after they lose, but surely leading up to a loss, unless they got yes men around them, that they should be disenfranchised with what they're building. Because if you have the desire to be the best, everyone else has got to keep their standards high, isn't it? So it's like, behind all that, like, so you're keeping your standards high, everyone's keeping their standards high. I've got to be accountable for it all, haven't they? So everybody's accountable for everything. So if you're accountable for everything, you're accountable for every practice. What you said about writing things down, I implore my guys to do it. Do they all do it? No, I can't do it for them. But if 10% of them do it, they're only going to get better from it, because everyone gets to the top or they lose and they want to think about how they can get better. Whereas I think about how we can get better whilst we're winning. In fact, we've only just getting started, so I'm constantly on this battle for getting better. And everyone talks about this 1% better. I don't really subscribe to that. I just subscribe to winning and how I can get better along the way. And these marginal gains, like going to a UV light place or going to these EMF mats, and you don't get off it and think, whoa, I feel better. I feel like I've got better. I don't go to a breathing coach and be like, yo, my MMA got so much better. And some people go so far off that path anyway, but like, you don't understand that just these little 0.5%, these fraction, these small things that just the consistency of saying I'm going to get up at this time, or the things that repeating the process of everything that you're going to do, these are the things that get you the 1% better, the 10% better, the 100% better. And if you can make sure yourself have good standards, intend to have good standards. Intend, it's not always going to happen. Intend to get rid of the emotional side of it, the feelings. Intend to work on the thoughts. My guy's got to be at the gym at 10 o'clock every day. So say, it doesn't matter what's gone on the night before. It doesn't matter what you got to do for the day. It doesn't matter if you're feeling horrible. Get rid of those things. Come in. And like you said, showing up's only a part of it. I don't like this show up mentality. I'm like, show up with the thoughts and the intention of how you can get better. And if you're not getting better in that session, ask me a question at the end. Yeah, ask me a question at the end. And if you can only get one little nugget of details that gets you better, good. And also, if you ask me a question at the end and you have a good session and you feel like it doesn't get better, make me accountable. Make me accountable, because it's my job to make sure that this learning environment is a pressure cooker where, like, they bottlenecks into winning, into being the greatest. And if my standards drop, or if you believe that something that went on in the session or whatever, outside before the session, outside anything, if anything isn't better, please tell me, because I want to be the best. I want to be the best for those guys, not for me. I want to be known as the best. I want to be the best that I can be, in order so they can be their best, and by keeping standards and always pressing people. So I think that is the main detail of it all.
I had about 15 different thoughts during that monologue, and now my brain's kind of scrambled. But I think the intention behind turning up to sessions and doing them properly is what it's all about. And I think you mentioned, like, most guys, a lot of guys, they talk about AMF mats or ice baths or all this crap. And I think what happened is, and I'm again talking 15 years ago or 10 years ago, there'd be, say, George St. Pierre or someone like that, and it's the job of the UFC to market this guy as the best thing ever. So when Connor's the easiest one to talk about, because he got that movement coach, whatever his name was, you all know.
Idel Portel.
Idel Portel. Then everyone wanted to get a movement coach because they thought that was going to make him better. And they don't realize that the UFC is just trying to sell a product, and they need to have these extraordinary weird things and push them. And they would think that Connor only was as good as he was because he had Idel Portel. It had nothing to do with it. Yeah. That was like not even a 0.00001% of why he was good. So it's like, it's just Instagrammable. And I think that's a big problem that we have now, is people want to do things that look cool to try and get following. And that is a part of the business, so you can't discourage it. But I think the bare nuts and bolts of improving and becoming a better fighter, or becoming a better man, or becoming better at anything, they're the things you should focus on, the foundation thing.
Well, that's your concepts, isn't it? Again, it's your constants. You have to have training constants, and the training constants have to fall within base, balance and posture. And once you understand that, then we can work outside that. But that is your framework. If I'm building a house, I put the foundations in first. I don't build the roof. Does that make sense? But I keep working from the foundations and improving the foundations, because without the foundation, like for me, in fighting, anything is possible. I watch these videos on YouTube saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't. Anything is possible if it's behind a good framework and network. If it's random, sporadic, and my feet are all over the place, then no. But I have to keep improving on the concept, isn't it?
And I think that's even talking about the house, but if you just focus on the roof, then you don't build up your foundation. I think that's what a lot of people...
Instagram's the roof.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or the chimney.
Yeah,
like people are getting to a point now in their lives where they look up to certain individuals and think, oh, what does this guy do? And they look at the stuff that he does and they try and do the fancy shit. But it's the foundation that they come from. Like you said, you can't do whatever. We have a psychological game in life, but I always say MMA or fighting is like a microcosm of life or a microcosm of life, however you say it. The cycles you see in MMA is like wrestling's the best martial art to learn, then it's kickboxing, then it's jiu-jitsu, and okay, now all the jiu-jitsu guys are doing well, and it just goes around in this big cycle.
Problem solving.
Yes,
because it's not that it's a cycle. It's like I have an answer to your question, and what I like about fighting is critical thinkers everywhere, and not like me. I come from a striking standpoint. Other people come from a grappling standpoint, and these are the antithesis for each other. So it's like you said, wrestling was forever and a day the answer, and no one had an answer to the question, because jiu-jitsu was the answer, then wrestling was the answer for jiu-jitsu, then you put your hand on the mat, jiu-jitsu becomes the answer for wrestling, and it's like the further you go for the train of understanding, that the further the question becomes like a bit more of a scientific solution and an equation. But it's like I can make it as complicated or as easy as I want, isn't it? But like you said, the meter of the division are just answering the questions. They're critical thinkers. So like we talked about the transferable skills, this is the transferable skill. For me in my life, I don't have problems. You know, when people come with problems, I think, why? There's no such thing as a problem. There's a solution. And if I go back to the energy thing, when I went by saying thank you, it's like I only see people's energy. I actually know when someone's fell out with me without them telling me, and like, but I can just feel it. I can feel in a room of 20 people, if the 2 people are not 100% invested in my message, I can feel it. I can just feel it. That makes sense. So it's like energy in, energy out, isn't it? So that's what I like. But other people are energy sensitive too, because you know what, and everybody is. It's just whether you understand it or not. Like dogs are probably more energy sensitive than us and everything like that. But we're much like, we know certain situations. We know positive, negative, great thoughts. So when you walk into a room and everyone's like happy, and you walk in there and you feel happy, or like sometimes, you know, when you walk into a room, there's like, you don't even know who's in the corner, but there's someone in there that's giving you a bit of shade, and you turn around and lo and behold, there's someone that's staring at you. It's just, you have these innate understanding, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we don't understand the spirit, we don't understand energy. I think some people, it's like emotional intelligence, I think they refer to it as. But if you have intention in a room and you're always switched, I call it switched on. Like I know a few people that I've met that are like highly operating individuals, and that is what they are. At all moments of all time, they are switched on to the highest degree, and they can sense everything. And it's like, I'm trying to get there with repetition and repetition and repetitions, but every now and then I just like, oh. But you can't. You got to be switched on constantly, and I think that's a learned skill. It's not God-given. It's something that people learn. And I think the more you can be switched on in a room, and you can, like you said about own the room. Like if you always owning the room, owning wherever you are, whatever you're doing, then you have a better sense of that. Something else that I used to do when I was fighting, which I don't think I've ever even tell you about, but when I used to enter the cage, and you have that moment before they're going to call out names and all that sort of stuff, and both fighters are in the cage, I would always stand there and I would close my eyes and I would view myself from a third person perspective, if I was watching it on TV or if I was above me or whatever. And I would sense where the cage is, where the cage wall is, where my opponent is, where the referee is, where my corner team is. And I would just feel it all like before the fight began. And that gave me like a different perspective on...
Like you'd lived it before?
That's visualization, all that sort of stuff. But no, like actual physical space. So understanding where the cage wall was. So then when I'm fighting, I can almost see myself from a 3D perspective. So it gives me a completely different perspective on the fight. Rather than just being through these 2 eyes, I've got an advantage because I can see through my 2 eyes and I can see
you got a bird's eye view.
My third eye, whatever I'm going to call it.
Do you think that just because we're from the video game generation that we think like this? Because
I'm not from the video game generation.
Mate, that's all you are, mate. That's all you are. You are a video game, but like that. that's what. So I just think of things like a first-person shooter. That's what fighting is to me. It's Mike Tyson. Remember the first Frank Bruno on like the Amstrad CPC464? It's just like that 2D animation of you against someone else, and then you can make it as big or as narrow as you want. You can get different viewpoints. That to me, that's what I like about life. That's my theory on life. That it's just like a little video game that we can control a little bit. So if you can get to that's flow state in a fight, if you're aware of all your surroundings in that little moment, because I promise you, some of the guys, I ask the guys, like when they're in the cage and just before the fight, what are you thinking? And all of them are like thinking, do a throw jab, do a takedown, what we're going to do is going to throw a jab, he's going to feint, and then we're going to the middle. That makes sense. That's the moment when your brain is chaos. Mm-hmm. So if you're organizing your thoughts where you're like, and you're so in tune with your surroundings, that's why you got to where you got to.
That's the only reason I ever want to fight, because again, the power of my mind, I never believed it was the power of my body. But I think what I do to combat that skill or that problem that you just said with the guys who are like, what am I going to do? I just think about the first action. I don't think about anything else. What am I going to do as soon as I touch gloves? Boom, I visualize it 1,000 times. I'm going to throw a jab, or I'm going to throw a low kick, or I'm going to do whatever. And then the rest is just autopilot because you've trained it in your body so many times. So you only think like that in that moment.
Yeah, well, because it's not natural that moment. Because you've done everything else, but tell you what you've not done. You've not walked out in front of 20,000 people and wait for 5 minutes for another guy who's signed up to hurt you to get into the cage. And then them 5 minutes, that when if you can really control your brain, that's how you win a fight, and that's how you lose a fight if you can't. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about emotions. If I can get rid of them before all this even starts, then it's like normalized behavior. All right, I've got my shorts on in front of everybody. I'm gonna have a fight with another guy and 20,000 people, and I'm gonna be able to have the presence of mind where I can slow everything down and see things from a third person's perspective, but I'm still in the first person shooter mode. This is not normal behavior, mate. That's why. I'm not trying to promote normal behavior, but do you know why you like that? Because you got comfortable with the uncomfortable straight away. So straight away you're in an uncomfortable situation, but you're thinking comfortable thoughts. Like that is what I'm aspiring my guys to get to. Like for me, that's just a theory. I've never really felt that, if I'm honest. Like when I fought, it was a bit. It was natural and unnatural because I just had a good time. I was walking out, letting on to my mates, not getting switched on. Like adding up how many, like my brain works in numbers, adding up how many people I knew, cage side, what we stuck with them. In the fight, I'm like looking who sat next to each other and things like that. But you're like reframing things on a different frame.
Yeah, but I think the downside to that I had is this is what I believe in my career as well. I became so unbelievably comfortable with it. I think because so at some points, not all of it, I went from competing at such a high level to such a low level as well, that I became so comfortable with it that I almost became lazy. So even though I was like, okay, third person, understand here, I didn't have any fear within my heart at all, which is a problem.
You need that.
You need that.
I never had that. That's why I knew it weren't for me.
Yeah.
Amongst other reasons, but I knew that it weren't for me because of that. I was like, everyone says you got to get nervous. I've only ever been nervous once in my life, by the way, on my driving test. That's the only time I've ever been nervous for anything. For anything, any pursuit whatsoever, and I was like, this is not natural that you wouldn't get nervous.
You think like nerves are what's the attachment with nerves? This is because I think about this quite a lot. Like
fight and flight.
Yeah, but then you're talking about a different thing. Like for me, I believe being nervous is dependent on how much you care about the thing. So if you really care about the thing and the outcome of the thing, you'll be nervous about it. I'll give you an example. I did a live broadcast recently with a friend of mine, and it was the first time I've ever done it. I was a bit nervous. It was a bit like, I want this to go well because it impacts my life in a way, right? So I had skin in the game. And yes, you have skin in the game when you fight in your physical body, but the result for me became unimportant. I got to a point in my life where win, lose doesn't matter. The people I know, because I'm so grounded in myself, I know the people that love me, their opinion is not going to change. So I'm just doing this as I'm going to use the word I used earlier, a vacuous affair to make sure that I'm getting more attention. That's all it kind of became. But I didn't actually care about it. So before the fights, I got to the point where I was like, the result doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This is all just, that's why I stopped. That is why I stopped doing it, because I had no nerves. The physical danger, whatever, like I've gone through it so many times. So that's when I became so comfortable with the situation. I look at the guy and be like, we're going to have a little bit of a go, and I'd have a go, and it became like a game.
Yeah, and I've been in the back with you, mate. We've just been jovial and jokey, like from walking out there, and that's your personality. So I would like go along with that. But no, that's what I had at the start. And that's why I knew, like, because I think you don't need all of it. That nerves, it's like fire in it, mate. And it's been spoken about many times. You can either set my house on fire or keep me warm. Yeah, but like if I can harness it and make it work for me, but I need some of it. I just need a bit of it. and I need to use it for myself. And it's like, okay, when I'm in the midst of cornering people, I don't get nervous. I get nervous, excited. And sometimes I don't even feel that I'm getting nervous, but my stomach goes, oh, here we go, we're nervous, excited again. And the more you do it, the less it becomes that. And that's when I know I need a break. Because this is the journey, right? You have to find joy along the journey. And I've been with you, mate, when we've won and we've been like, expected that. And I've been with you when we lost and we didn't speak for 3 days. So, like, if I'm going to be commiserating losses so much, I have to congratulate wins. But for me, that's the internal tussle, because I'm never I can't celebrate a win because it's just a sprint, isn't it? And at the end of that sprint, there has to be another sprint, because if not, we're already finished. And I feel we're just getting started. So if we're just getting started, we've got to. I'm getting as many trainers as I can to do as many sprints as I can, and I want to get nervous. I want to enjoy it. I've got to feel all these, but I've got to, like I said, these feelings. I've got to think better in the moment. But afterwards, I've got my internal feedback for myself is there has to be joy along the journey, mate. Yeah, because if sometimes it's like, yay, hooray. But when we were both there, Lerone knocked out Amir Khani, like the joy that I had in my body that I didn't even know, like it just came into my body for about an hour. Like I wish I could buy it now and I could walk around the street feeling like that, because that was insane, the level of, that's what we're always gaining for. That's what we're chasing, isn't it? That is what we're chasing, that moment. So, you know, to get to that moment, I think you got to be nervous to get to that.
100%. But that's what I'm saying. So once you eliminate that nervous section of your life, what are you doing it for? Because if you cannot get that feeling that you just described, it's became for me physically impossible unless the challenge, this is what it comes down to, the challenge has to be there.
Yeah.
Like it has to be like, oh, this is hard. This is going to become difficult. For me to overcome this challenge, I'll get that sensation that you just described.
Yeah.
But I was not getting that sensation, winning or losing. I was just getting, okay, next one, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the intention and everything that we spoke about at the beginning was completely lost. So you're right, when Lerone knocked out Amir Khani, it was unexpected. We were kind of down.
Yeah.
We were nervous about what was going to happen, and boom, then we're elated. You know, but that elation lasts.
Yeah, and now that was the most it's ever lasted.
Exactly.
Because this is the thing, and this is what I'm saying. I'm not sat there congratulating. We're not going out for 3 days partying, but moments. Yeah, I live for moments, and I live for those moments to set your heart on fire. Because it felt like my heart was like on fire. You know what I mean? I'm running around with my heart and fire and body like, whoa, this is a crazy feeling. So I'm living for those moments. So I'll celebrate those moments, but I'm not celebrating for long. Because I know the next sprint's coming. And that's the thing that I'm trying to instill in all my guys is like, you're going to have great moments. We're going to share some great moments. But afterwards, let's remember reflective practice. We're just getting started. And that's the mentality I want. And I listen to a lot of Tim Grover, I'll be honest, and he spoke about like his guys and the high performance guys that he has. They're like, say Kobe Bryant, when he won his second championship, he's holding up 3. He's holding up 3 because he's not, that's happened now. He's got 2 and he's thinking about the 3rd then. And that's my mentality. And that's why I said, when I hear other people saying like that, I'm like, all right, I'm really going for that. I'm sprinting towards that. It's great that we got it. And everyone in my inbox will say, oh my God, I'm so proud of it. And I get this all the time. I'm so proud of you doing so great. You're doing something. I think I'm doing terrible. Do you know what I mean? And then I want to feel like I'm doing terrible, because at the end of it, and then when I know that I'm done, like you knew you were done in fighting. When I know I'm done, I'll be like, look what we just did. Mm-hmm. I can't be like, well, look at what we're doing. Because if I look at what we're doing, I'm content with what we're doing, and I'm never content with what we've got. Because I'm content with what I've got. I've accepted that I've hit my ceiling. We've hit our ceiling in this, and the ceiling it happens when it's ended. And everyone coming up to congratulate me, please, I really enjoy it. I don't know they enjoy it at the time, but afterwards, and maybe 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, it's really nice when so-and-so said you're doing so great at this time. And maybe I should speak to people more in glowing terms about what they're doing, because it didn't make me feel good. But when I've gone away and thought about it, it's nice. And some people message me and say, hey, this guy was speaking nice of you. And at the time, I think, why did you message me that for? But afterwards, I'm like, oh, no, where was that person speaking nice of you? And they've got to celebrate these little things, but only for a second. Because it's next.
But again, so this is a lot of questions, a lot of things. But okay, so when the journey's over, as a fighter, again, I'm talking. This is when the journey's over, you can look back at it and be happy at what you've achieved or what you've done. But the reason the journey comes to an end normally is because you're not doing so well. So for me, and my career and the way I look at it, when I finished, I stopped my career with 3 losses. I got knocked out in Kazakhstan or wherever it was my last fight, Almaty, Kazakhstan, yeah. So that was my last one. it's very difficult to then look back at your career with pride, because you're like, yeah, but it's almost like you finished, you know. So it's like, and no one exits at the top, or not many people. It's very, 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 very rare.
It's an unforgiving sport, isn't it?
So it's like, okay, as a coach, maybe different, but if you're gonna, okay, now you're at top of the game. You got 6 world champions in the UFC. You're going to really just be like, okay, I'm done now. It doesn't happen.
No, because we're not that, and but then you're dead. When you're done, you're dead, in my opinion, because that's the war, isn't it? And if I admit that I've got an unquenchable thirst, and that's something I've got to deal with, I'll admit that I'm never going to be done.
Yeah, which is the best way to be. But I'm saying for you, to the mentality, a
fight is going to be done, because sadly, in this life, you probably get an athletic window of 15 to 20 years. And mine has long since passed. So it's like, I couldn't now go out and be a professional fighter or anything like that. So it's like, I have to be honest with my guys about Father Time. Father Time's got no respect for reputation. You had the reputation of one of the greatest fighters, and still do, that this country ever heard of. Does that make sense? And I don't expect you to understand that now, because you're on the next part of your journey. You're going to look back on what you've done, in my opinion, in 20 years' time, because in 20 years' time, you would have done so much more outside of that sporting realm, that maybe then you'll have some form of understanding of what you did achieve, and and how far you did come within it. And that'll be organic to you, and it'll come whenever. Do you know what I mean? And the race is long, and it's only with you, isn't it? Like, your race is with you, it's not with me. And like, you'll know when it comes to that point.
But I just think, I always say this, that I've lived 1,000 lives. That's like the phrase that I use, but it's like, fighting was one life and it's over and it's dead and I forgot about it. Like, I still have all the experiences and I still have all the knowledge, and but it doesn't even enter my brain. People always say, oh, do you miss it? No. Like, oh.
Really? That's foreign as well. And one of my favourite expressions, and it's a horrible expression, is like, a fighter dies twice, isn't it? Yeah. So it's like,
and tomorrow night I'm going to be cage-side at Octagon. They're going to have, and I've been there on some huge moments, big moments within the promotion, and it just doesn't affect me in any way, or make me miss it, or make me think about it, or I just think it's done. It's why would I look back at something that's already happened?
But you just said that sport's a microcosm of life and MMA, and you're getting to see those moments. They might not be your moments, but you're in my opinion, you should rephrase it in the fact that you're blessed that you've already like experienced those things, and now you get to revisit it by somebody else.
And 100%. But I'm saying for me, it doesn't make. I'm just talking about people asking me, say, "Do you miss it?" No, I don't miss it, because I've lived it and I've done it, and I've done it to it. If you really understood what it took to fight, you would not miss it either. The sacrifice is unbelievable, and now I have to sacrifice completely different things to get the achievements that I'm chasing. So for me, now that I'm putting together a sales force to sell a product, I get more out of that than winning a fight. Like, what it means nothing to me now. Like, the idea of it is gone.
It's still winning though, isn't it?
It's winning in a different realm, or whatever you want to call it. But I think.
But what's your addiction now, Luke? Because fighting was your addiction before, wasn't it?
Good question.
Because let's admit that we're just going from, like, we spoke about chasing highs. Do you know what I mean? So we're going from one addiction to the other, to the other, to the other. So now you've reframed your, like, I'm still on the sporting addiction. I've been on it for like 35 years, I think. I don't know that I'm ever going to go outside of it. From my dark side, I wanted to be accepted. So to be in sporting things, I'm now accepted. Does that make sense? So what's driving your addiction? Sorry to be the interviewer, man.
Put me on the spot. I don't know. That's a good, like, for me, doing things that people think I can't do. That's what always is. That's what fighting was to me. Everyone thought, like, I was going my own path, doing my own thing. Now I'm going my own path, doing my own thing, and achieving things and doing things that no one think is possible is all I want to do. And that's the only thing that makes me feel. I know it sounds like so sad, but someone said this to me before, and I never really understood it, and now I get it. And I say it too, is like, I only really feel anything when my daughter laughs, or when my daughter tells a joke, or when I see my daughter do something that's like, I think's cool, even if she drew a stupid pumpkin, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I get more out of that than what the average person looks at my accomplishments and think that's not a big thing. The big thing was my daughter laughing or whatever. And someone said to me, I was like, oh, that's a bit gay. But it's true. Like, for me now, to talk about dopamine receptors, talk about whatever you want to talk about, my brain is fried. So to achieve something now that means something to me is got to be so vast and so grand and so big for me to feel that achievement. it's a long path to get those little hits.
Well, you have
for
to
an
get
hour.
little joy, but Luke, you have to find joy along the journey. You really do. Take it from someone who didn't. Honestly, I've had I was a football coach who came into MMA, and I've been bastardized for that forever. So that makes sense. So what I could do, I could be like, oh, these guys have made it difficult for me, but I gained joy. I gained joy alongside the people that tried to stop me from progressing. So I mean, this is the thing, like we're addicted to something, right? I'm addicted to progress. I'm addicted to winning. I'm addicted to fight. I'm addicted to things that are along the way of it. I'm honest with you. That's my dark side. This is the biggest thing that I'm now promoting my guys to talk about is why. Why are we doing this? Because it's part of you. And everyone spends so much time running away from what makes you uniquely you. Like, that's why I'm so upfront and honest now. I'm me because as a kid, I didn't feel accepted. So everything I tried to do was to become someone that not only was accepted, but was integral that would be part of this community. Not someone to be like on the periphery of it, the mainstay of it. Does that make sense? And now, if I think about why I take all that with me, that's at least 50% of me. My dark side, or however you want to talk about what gets you where you are, that's at least 50% of me, so I can spend all my time running away from it, which I probably did for until the last 2 years. Yeah, and I spent all the time running away from it, or I could run towards it and understand it, because once I understand it, I understand me better. I understand how I can use that to make me better. And if I understand that and I can, like, the reason that people are getting semi-naked in front of their friends is because something probably went a little bit wrong along the way. A lot wrong, a little bit wrong. Yeah, whatever. But wherever it is, make sure you understand that person. Make sure you have a conversation with that person every day, or as much as you need to. Because if you understand that person, you can use that. In fact, the driving factor, the unquenchable I first is only that. And if I understand that, I understand what drives me, what fuels me, what pushes me towards me, and if I can get other people to understand that, I just think that they can't fail. Because the reason that people fail is because of the thing they're running away from. But the wrong thing you run away from is you. The thing that you run away from makes you. So run towards it.
I honestly believe everything you just said, that I have that's my life. So I don't believe I run away from much. You know, I think I'm always, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to evolve.
Face it head on.
Face it head on.
Yeah.
And I believe most people don't achieve things because they quit, and mainly they quit is because they're scared of whatever that factor is. For me, I think I honestly believe a lot of confidence and a lot of achievement, a lot of greatness comes from doing very, very small things. And those small things then teach you that it's possible. And as a man that, again, fought in the UFC on my 25th birthday, when I said out loud for 3 years that I will fight in the UFC before I'm 25, and then it happened on my 25th birthday, I do not believe that is by accident. And I believe the fact that I said I was going to do something and I followed through and I did it shows me that I can achieve anything with my life, as long as I put in the dedication, I put in the time, and I put in the effort, and I put in the work, which is what I'm doing slowly, bit by bit by bit. And you said the race is only against you and my race is against me, and I'm always trying to be better than I was before. And I think I'm achieving that. I don't think I'm not happy with where I'm at, but I know where I'm going, kind of thing. So I think most people out there, I consider I am a psychopath. I literally consider that I am crazy. Because when I speak to normal people, they look at me like I'm insane.
No, but that's what I'm saying about, and I believed it because I didn't know anybody else. That was like, that's what I'm saying. You're insane. Why you think like this? You're an outlier. You're the wrong person to. They're scared by it.
Exactly. This is what I've learned. Every conversation you have is just projection.
Yeah.
So they're projecting their fears and their worries onto you. So being able to dodge that and move out of the way is extremely important. And the best way to do that is just not to associate with people that aren't on the same linear, the same line as you, or the same vibration is the word that I used to use. I even tweeted, being back in the UK, everyone here is low vibration. I walk in a coffee shop and I just think, I hate this place, I want to go home, because it's so different here. Like, the energy is so low. Not everybody, but in big cities, I think it's just a general thing. In big cities are full of workers, and when you go into a place and it's full of workers, I don't want to be there. I want to be away. I much prefer to be on my own than to be surrounded by low vibration people. And I think that is
and you're just contagious, isn't it? And you understand that. And
I also think that's a lesson for a lot of kids and a lot of people that are watching, is like being content by yourself and on your own, and spending time by yourself is a superpower, because most people can't do that. They run away from it, as you said.
I couldn't do that. Honestly, I could not do that. I could not spend a minute on my own until I moved to America when I was 22. I resisted any time on my own until that point, because I wasn't comfortable in my own sphere, my own space, because I wasn't being honest with myself about who I was and what I wanted and where I was headed. Where I actually was. We was nowhere because of these conversations. That's what started my progress, when I just started being honest with yourself.
I think the one thing I tweeted again yesterday or the day before was everyone talks about their value. Everyone says, know your value. I know my value, but also you got to know when you're worthless. Sometimes you're just worthless. Yeah. So if you're worthless and you're walking around and you think, but you're worthless, so you got to work on yourself and become a better person. That's all it is. And I believe a lot of this, like you just said, you realized it when you were 22, when you're own, like these moments which make you better or make you want to become better are normally the dark moments. Normally they're the hard moments. They're normally the breakups. They're normally divorces. They're normally like moments in time which are extremely dark, and harnessing that darkness and pushing it forward into becoming a better version of yourself is what life is about.
Repetition, experience, right? Because through experiencing it, it's been so bad that the next thing that comes after that is always the best. Like the best, because life is converse, isn't it? It's always converse reactions. It's like, I'm feeling great, I'm feeling terrible. And if you're hovering about in the middle, you've probably got a pretty formulaic life. I want to feel like this, to feel like this. I want to experience the lows, to feel the highs. I don't want to be sitting vanilla territory.
You said to me, like, what earlier, whatever it was, something along with what am I doing, what am I pushing for? That's exactly what I'm pushing for. Not to be that guy, not to be vanilla, for my life to never be normal, for me to always be excelling, improving, living differently. I don't like. At the moment, I'm currently looking at moving to Saudi Arabia, which is, I don't know many people live in Saudi Arabia. And one of the main reasons I want to do it is because no one else is doing it. Everyone's moving to Dubai. Fuck Dubai. I'll go to Saudi Arabia and I'll make my own path. And me making my own path has always been like inane within me. Something I've wanted to do. And I don't know why that is. It probably I spoke about my mother and religion and stuff before. But I think having the faith in yourself to do something that other people wouldn't do, for me, is like, it means something. I don't know why. We could talk about it and whatever. That's, for me, is like, that's what I want. I want my life to be moments or be things that no one else will do.
Yeah.
Because then I can tell the stories.
Because it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving you right. And that's my life. It's like, impossible is I'm possible. And that sounds like such an arrogant thing to say, but I always want to prove people wrong, but me right more so. It's like, if you don't think it's possible, credible, I'm going to find to make it work. That's what extreme winning is. Anything that's extreme, it's like, no one would possibly do that. Like, listen, I know extreme people that would do anything. Like, if I think of my life in winning, and extreme people do anything to win. So I know that extreme people will do anything to get to where you're going to be. And that's what makes the impossible possible, isn't it? If you're prepared to do whatever it takes to get to that destination. And it's easy to say.
Kilos of weight in 24 hours. It's easy to
say I can cut 13 kilos in 24 hours on my own. Yeah, with no one to support me. Yeah. I've just done 2 weight cuts this morning, and they didn't cut that between them, and it was difficult. So that it's possible if you believe it is, and if you, that's the movement I'm trying to push. Like, no one believes what I say. No one believes that a football coach should come into MMA and supersede and exceed anything that's happened in Manchester already. And we've been going for 4 years. No one believes that was happening. But I'm just saying to you now, this is just starting. That makes sense. This is just the start of where it's headed. And because it's possible. If, like, wherever you believe, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I'm going to prove me right, that this is possible. This is what's going to happen. I've got some great people around me. I've got the best infrastructure I've ever had, the best support system that I've ever had, and with the support system I've already got within my own loins, mate, that anything is possible.
I think that's a beautiful place to finish. To be honest, I didn't really know what I was going to talk about today. Because we know each other so well, I just thought we'd chat and something would happen, and it did. Obviously, like you said, 4 years strong now with Manchester top team, and it is becoming, or it has already become, the biggest gym up in the north of the UK, and probably the whole of the UK in the near future. So we got the 2 guys fighting the weekend. I'm sure they'll do well. But it's the thing about any mission or anything that you're trying to achieve is, it's like, even if there's down points to it or up points to it, it's always the feelings don't come into it. It just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And I think having you at the head of that mission and understanding where you're at in your life, because it's been a long road for you to get where you are mentally and everything
still
you
going.
said. Of course it's still going. And I think that's a super important fact that people always forget about, and I don't know where I heard this, but it's like none of us are a finished product. None of us are at the end. Everyone's always developing, and anyone that you look up to or you think has got it right, they're a mess and they're trying to work out for themselves. So I think understanding that we're all on our own journey is super, super important. And I think we've come to a point now where for me, our relationship and us, we've come to a point now where you're out with Manchester's top team. It's the best you've ever been, and you can see the future. And if you can see the future and you do the work, it's inevitable. I believe it. Again, I said, I'm an unathletic computer geek to fight in the UFC. It took me 22 months or something from turning pro to have my first fight in the UFC. Something ridiculous like that, like one of the fastest turnarounds ever. I think it's all because of my mind and what I put into it and everything I did. Because of that 3-year period, I now know it is inevitable. Whatever I decide with my life is what I'll end up with.
Yeah.
Because I have decided that is going to happen. It will now happen. It's already happened in another reality, if you want to get a bit woo-woo. And then I just need to bring it to this reality, and that's time. And I know you have already decided the fate of Manchester top team, and there will be ups and downs along the way. But if you cut out the feelings, we'll get there eventually, and it'll be an inevitable ending. So as an inevitable ending, we'll end there. And if you just can tell people...
One little thing, I'll have a little thing before that. One last little thing, sorry, that I know we're signing off, and it is a short thing. It's like, the last part is this. Feelings, I'll go back to it. So if you can control the way that you think, the only last two things that are left are what you watch and what you consume, what you eat. So if you control the way you think, and then you control what you watch and what you consume, and the people that you spend your time with, like what goes into your brain and what goes into your body, that's it. And then if you're consistent, then you can be successful. That's all you did. You did it through writing things down, through doing all these things. I did it by writing things down and doing all these things, and by like thinking I've got the method, scratching it out, starting again, thinking you got the method. Like right now, I believe I've got the method. I will have a conversation in 6 months where I said, I can't believe how wrong I was. Because we're reinventing things all the time, and if you're adaptable and things like that, there's nothing you can't achieve.
Exactly. Adapt or die. That's the answer. Adapt or die. Right. Thank you very much, guys. If you got this far listening to us babble on, and I appreciate it. Obviously, subscribe to the channel, get involved. Loads of content coming out. We're on, in a different place here in Manchester, different setup, as you can see. I'll leave it to Carl to sign out. Let us know how you can follow you, where follow Manchester Top Team, follow yourself individually. What's going on?
Yeah, obviously on all the main channels, it's at Manchester Top Team for the gym, and for myself, it's Carl for Instagram. I've got some exciting things coming in the short to medium term in terms of like some online stuff that going to give away to the guys for free, so we can push everything going around. So make sure you give us a follow, and make sure you follow the All Ears podcast.
Good work.